And when I can find the record, oh, it is recording. It just said that.
It did.
Hello, everybody. My name is Danielle Angelari, and I'm the executive director of NAMI Northern Illinois, which is an affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I just want to welcome you all here today and thank you for joining us. Just a few updates on my end before I hand it over. Our next Leading the Conversation webinar, which is where we're at today, is on postpartum mental health, and that will be September 19th at noon. Because it is Suicide Prevention Month, we are a part of a panel at Brook Road Community Center. Xavier also is with TCMF, September 26th at 5:30 p.m. We do have a couple of different little fundraisers coming up this month. We have our Pizza Ranch night, our infamous Pizza Ranch, September 18th, and then our Bump Each Other Up sand volleyball tournament at Park Lanes, September 28th. And please don't forget, it's our 40th anniversary this year, so we hope to see you at that celebration in October. Like I said, September is Suicide Prevention Month. Suicidal thoughts, much like mental health conditions, can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, or background. Suicidal thoughts, although common, should not be considered normal and often indicate more serious issues. During Suicide Prevention Month, it's time to raise awareness of this urgently important crisis. We use this month to shift public perception, spread hope, and share vital information to people affected by suicide. Our goal is ensuring individuals, friends, and families have access to resources that they need to discuss suicide prevention and to seek help. Which leads me to introducing our friend and guest presenter today, Xavier Whitford, who is the founder and executive director of the Tommy Corral Memorial Foundation, a local nonprofit that provides supportive services in our community for mental illness and suicide prevention. As a facilitator for teen and young adult groups, she encourages those living with mental health struggles to meet with and to support others. Her personal story of suicide loss, PTSD, and passion to improve awareness, education, and cultivate resiliency has made her a powerful local advocate. As a mental health first aid instructor for adult, youth, public safety, fire, EMS, and veterans, she arms communities with individuals who are now trained to handle mental health crisis more effectively. Xavier, thank you so much for coming here today and for sharing with us. And I do want to just one more housekeeping note. Questions and answers, you will have that opportunity. You can add them in, but we will facilitate them at the end of the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Danielle, for that awesome introduction. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I do have a lovely little PowerPoint to follow us along with this today. So bear with me a second. Oh, I'm actually on the wrong screen to start with. No, starting well. So thank you for having me, Danielle, and thanks everybody for being on to just learn about this important topic. Suicide is something that not many people are talking about. And although it's getting better, there's that stigma around it. I always say 3 S's. It's, stigma leads to silence and silence leads to suicide. So the more we start breaking the stigma and eliminating the silence that people hide behind because of the stigma, then the less suicide hopefully we'll see going forward. Because talking about it is really what's going to get people the help and support that they need when they're having those thoughts and dealing with that. So we're going to be talking today about how to fight suicide by building resiliency, focusing a lot on, what are the signs and symptoms, but also what can we do to increase resiliency in ourselves and others around us that might be struggling. And resiliency, I always say it's choice, and we'll talk more about that as we go forward. So our story started in 2014 when we lost our son Tommy to suicide, and we decided that we were going to use that loss as a catapult, the pain from that loss, to create a purpose to reach out and help others. I'm going to share a quick video that's going to give a little introduction about who we are and what we're doing and kind of our story, and then we'll build from there. So here is the video real quick. We established the Tommy Corral Memorial Foundation in 2014 after we lost my 19-year-old son Tommy to suicide as a result of depression.
Not only our worlds were falling apart, but our best friends' worlds were falling apart. I saw Micaiah walking around all of the information just flooding social media. And all of the misinformation, people not understanding, all of the stigma and things that society puts in our world about what suicide is.
He was very involved in soccer, to just father-son times, fishing, things of that nature. And so very vivid memories.
Tommy was a wonderful kid. He was happy and very active and involved in sports. And he was always smiling and funny and joking.
Then here's this amazing kid who's being called a coward and selfish, which if you knew Tommy was the last thing that he was a kind and giving individual. And if you ever saw him step on a soccer field, you knew that he was not a coward at all.
I think I'd like the people to know the heart of Tommy, which is Tommy was all about other people. He was about caring. He'd be the one to give his shirt off his back. He'd be the one to be more concerned about others than himself. I think the important thing for us to know too is that it's important for us to be real and honest with people, and that's what Tommy was.
And so when we lost him by suicide, it took us by surprise.
He was always asking how people were, and he was always considered and concerned about people.
And we still lost the battle. And we didn't want anybody else to lose it if we could help it.
We started this foundation in honor and memory of our son, Tommy. And so myself, my wife, and good friends, and our daughter, Micaiah, strive to honor our son by helping others through education, through awareness, through shattering silence, right? Through bringing light, through all things, just following and honoring. So it's been an honor. These 6 years now. Our son will be 26 years old this December. It's an honor to be able to talk with others, help others. There's a great need in our community for awareness and education when it comes to suicide, mental illness, things of that nature.
All right, so that is a little bit old of a video, but I like to share it just because it's some different perspectives from different people that were part of our lives and part of Tommy's lives that were affected by this loss and the stigma around it and how we were navigating through that. Tommy, we actually just in August 18th of this year was 10 years that we lost our son, and we've been fighting ever since to try to create and improve education in our community and support individuals. The mission of our foundation is simply to enhance mental health of the individuals, their families, and the community, and we do that through awareness, prevention, support, and education. We do a lot of different things in the community as far as referral for mental health services, financial support for mental health services and counseling, mental health first aid training, as Danielle had mentioned, education training and workshops, retreats focused around mental health, as well as support groups around mental health and grief. So today we're here to kind of talk about suicide and how to build resiliency around that. And some facts that are good to know is in our county, Winnebago County, we lose an average of 42 lives. We've lost an average of 42 lives between 2019 and 2023. Now, when we think about that, it is a large number, but you also have to think about those that are impacted by those suicide loss. And they say an average of 130 lives are directly affected by every suicide loss. So when you extrapolate that out, there's a lot of people annually that are affected by suicide in our community. And that doesn't go away. It's been 10 years for us. His loss still impacts us just as greatly today as it did 10 years ago when we lost him. Suicide also can affect anybody. It doesn't discriminate by age. It doesn't discriminate by nationality, by background, socioeconomical status, any of that stuff. There's so many stories that we've heard throughout the years where, it's a 30-year-old doctor, it's nurses, it's teachers, it's children who come from loving and supportive families, it's all sorts of people that are being affected by suicide and the loss of it. We believe that the first step in encouraging a person with thoughts of suicide to live is to talk about it. Talk about those feelings, because fears shared are more likely diminished. And the more that we talk about it, the better off that person's going to be, because they're going to get the love and support and direction that they may need to get through those thoughts and feelings. When we look at warning signs, there's so many. Some are very obvious and some are not as obvious, right? When people are talking or making suicidal threats or talking about wanting to die, obviously that's a very, right out there. You need to be aware that if they're talking about it, they're asking for help, right? But sometimes it's less obvious and they might just have a negative view of themselves. They might just be talking a feeling like there's no hope to get through the situation. There's no hope for their future. They might not be talking at all, and they might be just isolating or, showing some irritability and aggressiveness that hasn't been there in the past. They might be talking about, which I see this a lot with the teens that we work with, feeling like a burden to others, feeling, like they're just a burden to their parents or burden to those around them. You might start to see drastic mood or behavior changes in them. And I think the key is when you start to see these shifts all of a sudden, right? Like somebody who's normally an outgoing, happy-go-lucky person, they're starting to isolate, they're starting to have these irritability and aggression mood swings, right, that are different from their norm. Those are signs that maybe something's changing, maybe something's going on that needs to be talked about and brought up. If they're talking about, or showing signs of self-harm, again, self-harm is oftentimes a reaction to an underlying psychological struggle that they're going through. It's a coping mechanism for them. So if you're seeing that, you know that there's maybe something more psychologically that's going on that needs to be addressed and talked about. They might be engaging in risky behaviors, giving things away, or increasing their use of substance. And these are things that you might see that might trigger, hey, there might be something going on and we need to talk to them more about how they're feeling, ask those difficult questions of whether or not they are having thoughts of suicide or killing themselves. And it's very hard to ask those questions, but the one thing I want you to know is if we see these signs and we don't ask these questions, who else will? We have to be the ones that are willing to ask those hard questions and have those hard conversations with the people that we're seeing these signs with, and talk through it with them and lead them to those resources that may be available to support and help them through it. So, we talked about some of these warning signs, again, becoming withdrawn, less interactive with friends and family, drastic mood changes, increased risky behavior, which could also include use of substance or alcohol, giving away things, saying goodbye, or looking for ways that they could end their life, right? But we also can outweigh those, we can use protective factors to help with those warning signs when we see them. So encouraging them to participate in social activities, keeping a routine, checking in with them regularly to get through those hard times or those thoughts and feelings. Finding people they can trust to talk with them when they're feeling overwhelmed and they can reach out to. Doing physical activities, honestly, going for a walk, joining some sort of a class, whether it's a fitness class or a class where you can just have that social interaction, or developing new skills or new hobbies and getting them out of that routine of just sitting in the thoughts, right? We all know that keeping a healthy diet and sleep is critically important to our mental health. So making sure that they're getting the sleep that they need, that they're eating healthy and not just relying solely on energy drinks or coffee and things like that, right? And then encouraging them to talk about to their medical provider, whoever that might be, or a therapist if they have one, on positive ways to deal with that stress and things that they're dealing with. All of that is really important. Protective factors in our life are going to help balance out those risk factors that we might be dealing with. So the more that we can build those into the lives of others, and me specifically, I'm trying to help build that into the lives of the teens that we work with and young adults we work with. So when those things happen, they have those protective factors to fall on. They have that community of support. They have those healthy coping strategies and skills in place to lean back on to help them become more resilient. So this is one of my favorite quotes on resiliency. Resilience is very different than being humble. Or sorry, that didn't come off right. There's an error in that. Resilience means that you experience what you feel. You fail, you hurt, you fall, but you keep going. So that's what resiliency is. You still feel it, you still experience it, you still go through that pain and that fall, but you keep going through it. And that's an important thing to remember, is we're not experiencing it, we're not feeling it, we're still continuing through it and going through that. So why is resilience important? It's important for a lot of different factors. As we all know, when we are weakened, in a weakened position due to whatever we're going through or wherever we're feeling, we feel things when they're going from bad to worse. And it can be very difficult in those times to find our balance, or swim against that tide that's coming at us, right? Or recover and regain stability. So resilience is important because it enables us to develop those mechanisms for protection against those experiences, which can be very overwhelming for us. It helps us to maintain our balance in our lives during those difficult and stressful periods. So resilience is something that we need to be talking more about. We need to be able to, build in ourselves, right? Cultivating resiliency is something that I talk a lot about because it's important. I believe because I had resiliency and I had cultivated resiliency in my life, growing up through many different circumstances I was in, it helped me also become resilient through the loss of my son, and become resilient through my own mental health journey, because I had my own PTSD and mental health that I had to work through as a result of finding my son the day he took his life. And so resiliency is something that we talk a lot about because I believe we can cultivate it in our lives and help us prepare ourselves for things when they happen, because we all have things that happen and we go through in our lives that are difficult, that are painful, that aren't even anything that we caused ourselves, right? It's just things that happen to us that we have to learn to live through and experience, but also grow through. And so I want to talk about, there are different types of resilience. There's inherent resilience. There's this phrase that we talk about, emotional resilience, and it may be one which you've maybe heard of before. It's really quite a simple term which refers to how we are able to manage the emotional impact of stresses, difficulty of trauma in our lives. However, there are also different sorts of resiliency which we develop and need different point views in our life, right? So one is inherent resilience. This is the natural resilience with which we are born. The natural resilience protects us and informs us how to discover, how to explore the world, learn how to play, learn how to also take risks, right? This sort of natural resilience occurs a great deal within our childhood, in children under the age of about 7, were provided their development was not disrupted, of course, and they did not have to experience any sort of trauma. When it is disrupted or they've experienced some sort of trauma, it can affect that inherent resilience. So maybe they're more likely to take risks, right? Because they weren't taught and they were affected by trauma in those early ages before the age of 7. Adaptive resilience is the type of resilience that occurs at different points in our lives, and it's usually brought on through those difficult or challenging experiences. Being made redundant and going out the next day to look, or losing a job and going out the next day to look for a job, right? That's an adaptive resilience. Rebuilding your sense of confidence when something goes wrong or someone talks about you, that's another example of adaptive resilience. Adaptive resilience is a resilience which needs to be learned on the spot. And it can give us the ability to manage stress and pain when it's happening through us. So, and then there's also learned resilience. This is the type of resilience that is built up over time. And we learn to activate it through our difficult experiences from our past. As I mentioned earlier, some of the things that happened in my previous life growing up helped me. I was able to pull on those when going through the loss of my son, but I had never experienced losing a child and the pain that comes through that. So that was more of an adapted resilience, right? But we learn to know when to draw on this learned resilience and to use it through those difficult times. We learn to grow through those experiences and those painful things and build resilience through that. So we're going to talk about how do we develop, right, this resilience? What are areas we should focus on? And I'm going to go through some of those. So people, often ask me through the years how I've become so resilient, and I share with them these 5 things. These are the things that I feel in my life have helped me become resilient. But one thing that was said to me in a support group that I went to after losing Tommy that has stuck with me throughout the years is you can't heal what you don't feel, right? We have to be able to feel it to heal it. And so none of this is saying that we don't feel these things. We don't have to deal with this pain, but how we can become resilient through it. To develop our self-awareness, some things that we need to do is, sometimes we need to make lifestyle changes, right? If we feel people are making unreasonable demands on us, we need to tell them how we feel and say that we're not capable of doing that at that time. And oftentimes, we have to say no to things, right? We could use relaxation tips and learn how to take time to calm down before we deal with certain things or breathe through them. I'm one of those people when I am dealing with a lot of feelings and emotions, I go for a walk, I start to journal, I listen through things, and I do that regularly to help me process what I'm feeling, what I'm going through, the pain that I'm experiencing. One of the things I did early on after losing Tommy is I've never considered myself a writer, but I started blogging because I had so many intense feelings and questions and struggles and pain that I was going through that I just didn't know how to get out. And so journaling and blogging became a way for me to put that down. And it helped me a lot to just write those things down and also focus on writing down the things that I was learning through this process about myself, about others, about grief, about healing, about mental health and suicide in general. And so writing those things down was a way of self-awareness for me. Sometimes we need to deploy the right defensive strategies, right? Like we have to avoid things. We have to avoid those triggers that might be in there. Be aware of what our surroundings are and what might be triggering to us. Sometimes that increased escaping or creating a distance from people and things for a short period of time for me to just really focus on where I was at, what I was feeling and what I was going through and becoming more self-aware of myself. For me, one of the things that helped me become more self-aware too was switching the why to what. So for me, it was about perspective. I wanted to, instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Why my son? Why? And focusing on the why, I started to focus on what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do? I'm not going to ask and dwell on why I lost my son. I'm going to focus on what I'm going to do about it. This change in perspective not only helped me move forward, but it helped catapult me into a purpose, which, we can talk about a little bit later because purpose is also a huge part of that. As you can see at the end, pursuing purpose in our lives. The second thing I focus a lot on is mindfulness. Mindfulness exercises and activities are a way of paying attention to the present moment, using techniques like, writing down what is in front of me right now, right? Focusing on like tapping into our body and what we're feeling and where we're feeling it. One thing I learned early on through some different therapy that I was doing was being mindful of the pain triggers in my body. I learned through an EMDR therapy that I was a part of that I often had shoulder pain, and that was directly related to the trauma of finding my son. And so when I start to have trauma or pain in my shoulder, I know that that's kind of a trauma response to maybe some mental struggles that I'm going through in relation to that loss. But being mindful and helping to find ways that can help us be able to tap into what our feelings are that we're going through, our pain within our body. It reduces that negative effects of stress, and it can increase a person's ability to stay engaged in the present, right? So learning to understand our emotions better, learning how to cope with those difficult feelings and thoughts to feel calmer, and it will help boost our attention and concentration and improve our relationships. And so recently I was having a conversation with somebody who is having a lot of suicidal thoughts, and they're, seeing a therapist and they're trying to deal with this on a regular basis. But I mentioned to them that something that was helpful to me is just to focus on what's present in front of you instead of focusing on the thought, right? Like focus on the outside and how it's sunny today, and there's a nice breeze and the weather's cooling, and sit down and journal about what are the things that you're thankful for in your life, to help you focus on that instead of the thoughts and the feelings that you might be having. So mindfulness can play a very and learning how to use mindfulness in your daily life and your daily practice can be a critical component to resiliency when difficult times happen and difficult things happen in our lives. Self-care. We talk a lot about self-care and being able to, again, take care of yourself, get sleep, regularly, get up and have exercise and eat a balanced diet, because yes, those things matter. Those things matter to our resiliency. They matter to our mental health, and we need to be able to get those things on a regular basis, or else it starts to affect us. I am one of those people that I thrive on about 5 hours of sleep. But I know if I get less than that, I am not going to have, my mental health is going to start to be effective. I'm going to start to really see that affect my relationships in my life. My husband will start to notice right away, right? But they actually say that 7 to 8 hours is kind of the sweet point for sleep. And if you're getting less than that, you might be able to see that affecting your life as well and your mental health. So, being aware of that, being aware that everything you intake in your body and you eat, and the less activity you have is going to possibly impact it, and build a self-care routine into your life that's going to be helpful to build that resiliency, because when things happen, we can't let them affect that self-care either. And that's a key component. We just had a close friend that was going through a crisis situation with their health. And I was telling her husband, like, you have to eat, you have to take care of yourself. You have to make sure that you're, taking care of yourself, because she needs you strong to be there for her right now when she's going through this. Our first instinct oftentimes when we're struggling with a situation, something happens to us in our lives that's affecting us, is to throw the self-care out the door and just focus on what's going on. And in reality, resilience and learning resilience is understanding that you can't do that you have to continue to make sure you're getting sleep, make sure you're eating, make sure that you're, taking care of yourself so you can take care of other people around you, or take care of that situation that you're dealing with. Also, be less hard on ourselves. We live in a society, we're so hard on ourselves, right? We're constantly, you know, critical of where we're at, critical where we're being, and critical that we can't do everything. I, for one, struggle with that a lot when I can't be there for people that I need to be there for because I'm dealing with my own stuff, right? And I've learned that being less hard on myself and showing more care and compassion to myself in those situations is okay. Forgiving myself, forgiving others is part of that, right? Making sure that we understand that, hey, everybody makes mistakes. We make mistakes, and we don't need to be hard on ourselves, and we need to forgive ourselves through that is part of resiliency and growing resiliency within ourselves. And believe it or not, it's okay to put ourselves first when we need to. It is okay to put ourselves first. It's not selfish, it's necessary. Putting ourselves first doesn't mean we don't care about those other people or the situation that's going on. It means that we're smart enough to know that we can't help others if we're not taking care of ourselves first. And we need to be sure that we're doing that and we're practicing that, because in practicing that, we become more resilient in the long run, and we're able to do that. And that comes with, setting boundaries, right? Setting boundaries on things that we will allow and we won't allow in our lives and in our day-to-day interactions. We can do a whole presentation on how important it is to set boundaries to our own self-care and our own self-awareness, right? Learning self-awareness to set boundaries and create self-care for ourselves could be a whole nother presentation. Take note of that for future, Danielle, as a great opportunity for another presentation. But the fourth thing, in the things that I've learned to develop resiliency in my life is building a community of support. I cannot tell you how important community and having supportive people in my life have helped me in all assets of losing my son and through the journey of the last 10 years. We have to make time to spend with those family and friends that are a supportive network around us. We have to be able to find balance to our life in making sure that we're not filling it up with all of the things to where we don't have time to spend with those people that matter, those people that encourage us, those people that give us inspiration to keep moving forward and to keep being positive. Again, we have to make sure that we're networking with people who are positive and supportive, and telling people that when we're close, that are close to us when we're struggling, so that they can support us and help us through it. When I am in a bad mental health spot and struggling with my own mental health, that's when I reach out to the people around me and let them know, hey, I'm not okay right now, and that's okay. But I need to let you know that this is going on so that you can support me and help me through it. And that might look for me like them reaching out to me more regularly and checking in. That might mean that they're stepping in to help me with our TCMF work. So when people are reaching out to me, if I'm not okay to support that person in that moment, that I can guide them to a person who can step up and help in that moment, right? Support groups are a huge part of building community. We have mental health support groups we offer through TCMF. NAMI Northern Illinois has a ton of amazing support groups that they offer, and it can provide an opportunity for people to share their own personal experiences and feel connected with other people who truly get it, who truly understand what it's like to struggle, and that you can just be real and open and honest with. Support groups are very effective at reducing symptoms and improving that social competency and self-esteem and things like that when we're feeling overwhelmed. And we're feeling like our well-being isn't in a good spot. So being a part of support groups is a huge part of building resiliency in our lives as well. Obviously, there's other community supports that we can be a part of as well that could look to as religious groups that we're a part of, professional groups we're a part of, book clubs that we're a part of, right? It may look different for so many people in different ways, but that social community aspect and the more that we have built into our lives creates resiliency. And then the last thing is that many And I truly believe that purpose arises out of things that happen to us, and we have special gifts and things, and we have things that aren't great that happen to us that can create this sense of purpose. I am a big proponent of that because I found a purpose in the pain of losing my son. Purpose is something that we need to feel, and that's why we can grow out of it. We can go through it through different things that happen to us. We can turn our hurts into healing, right? We can turn those wounds that we've experienced through different things that have happened to us, whether we've done them ourselves through things, mistakes and errors we made, or they've been done to us and we had no choice in the matter. We can turn those wounds into wisdom. And my thing that I've always said is I can turn my pain into a purpose. So when we start to look for the purpose behind, right, the what am I going to do with it instead of the why did this happen to me, when we start to turn those pains into purpose, we can make a huge impact in our lives and in the community of people around us, right? And so that's what we tried to do through TCMF and through our story, is find that purpose and pursue that purpose in everything that we do. So these are the 5 things that I feel help develop resilience in ourselves and in others. And if we can help guide people to become more self-aware, to build more mindfulness and self-care practices into their daily routines, to have a community of support around them and connecting with them on a regular basis and pursuing our purpose, we can truly become more resilient as individuals. And one thing I really want to share that's super important is that no is a complete sentence. I think we live in a society that has, created this yes response, and it's okay to say no. And we can say no and not have to explain ourselves, right? No, I can't because of this, this, or that. No, I can't, I feel really bad, but no, I can't because this, right? Just, it's okay. No is good enough. It doesn't require justification or explanation. Once you're confident in your no, it's easier to make a decision for yourself instead of for others. And the more we're able to say no in circumstances, people might not exactly be happy for us, but that might be what we need to do for our own mental health. That might be what we need to do for our own for that person, because maybe we're not the right person in that moment too. So I just wanted to share that no is a complete sentence as well. One of my favorite quotes that kind of wraps this up is, if you want to find, it's from Rick Warren, who's a great pastor and runs a big church, but he also lost his son to suicide, is if you want to find your purpose in life, you find your wound. And I truly believe that. And I've learned that in my own struggle, that through our wounds, through our pain, we can find our greatest purpose if we, just grow through it. If we feel it and we learn through it, we're resilient through it, and then we use it to create a purpose in our life. That's the end of my presentation, and I know that Danielle has some questions and answered that came up throughout our presentation. I also want to guide you that if you want to learn more, if you're not aware of what we're doing, the different services we offer, the training and education we offer, or the support groups, to please go to our website and check it out and reach out. We'd love to connect with you to provide more opportunities like this or support you individually if needed.
Thank you so much, Xavier. I'm actually going to read one of our attendees' thank you, because I echo the sentiment. It just says, this is absolutely beautiful, relevant, and so very helpful. I'm taking away so much. Thank you for sharing, Xavier.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. I don't have any questions as of yet, but please, if anyone does have questions, type them in the Q&A. And Xavier, would you like to share anything that TCMF is, any events coming up or anything more about the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Saturday, the 21st of September, we're going to be at Forest Hills Diamonds for a softball tournament. There are 12 different, very competitive groups of softball players playing. It's going to be fun, but it's our Fight for Life softball tournament. Anybody can come out during the day and hang out, be part of our raffles and the different things that are going on throughout the day, watch the games. It's really a cool event because people come out in their jerseys that support mental health, suicide prevention, and TCMF. We have a TCMF team that plays. It's some of our board members and our volunteers that get together and play in honor of TCMF. But we also have so many amazing raffle baskets and things going on at 50/50. We have t-shirts for sale and resources available and all of that stuff all day long. It starts at like 8 in the morning and usually goes until almost 8 o'clock at night. So if you're out and about and you want to come by and say hi and join us or be a part and put your tickets in for some of the raffles and different things going on, you can join us. We also have a Paddle to Battle Suicide. It's a pickleball event that's coming up on October 19th. The date's changed and it's become a full event because Victory Pickleball is like, hey, let's do an event. We're going to have music. We're going to have raffles. We're going to have pickleball going on for all ages and levels of people. We're going to have a lot of fun things happening for those that don't play pickleball there, where you can, do some bags games and what is it called? I always say the wrong thing. Paddling on the, what is it? Ping pong. Thank you. I always forget. I want to say pickleball, but it's not, it's paddleball. And different things like that happening as well that you can come out and join us. And that is going to happen at Victory. More will be coming out in that this weekend, actually, because we're kind of shifting the event from like just a pickleball tournament to like a whole event. So it's going to be really fun. Bring the whole family, come out on October 19th, which is a Saturday. I believe the time frame is going to be like afternoon to evening, but that'll be coming out this weekend. We'll be sharing a lot on that.
Thank you. That sounds like a lot of fun. We've got another thank you, and we do have a question. What are your thoughts for someone who is in despair, has no energy to do these suggestions, and like the present is the problem?
Yeah, a good question. I would say if the present is the problem, maybe to just reach out to that one trusted person that you might have in your life, or reach out to, Danielle, myself, that we can get you connected with some people who can come, spend some time with you, talk through some things, get you to a community of supportive people. I really feel like sometimes we find ourselves in that situation and we just need to connect with people outside of the situation to help kind of shift our focus, shift where the present that we're going through and get us kind of out of that situation. I've been in times like that myself, and the biggest help for me has been like a friend coming in, just like sitting with me and going for a walk, or picking me up and taking me away for a little while to kind of talk through what's going on and what I'm feeling and going through. It's really hard ourselves. And I hope that that person also has people around them that can just continue to follow up with them, right? But sometimes when we're in that despair and we're in that rough situation, it's hard to reach out. So it helps having people around us that can reach in and kind of pull us out, right? So those things are the suggestions I would make is, even if it's just one person you reach out to try to get you to kind of step away from that present situation you're dealing with, or walk away from it for a short period of time. Every little bit of time gives you a break away, gives you kind of some relief from that. And the more that you can do that, the better.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Do you mind if people think of something after we leave each other, if I share your contact information again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Please do. They can reach out to me for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Xavier. It was lovely to see you, and I appreciate all the information. It's very valuable, and thank you for the work that you do. And again, thanks everyone for joining us today. Hope everyone has a good day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Danielle.
you. See you soon.